A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review today. This time we are looking at the latest Dungeons & Dragons kind of art book, Lore and Legends, a visual celebration of the 5th edition of the world's greatest role-playing game. Now, you can argue that Dungeons & Dragons is not the world's greatest role-playing game, and that's perfectly fine. I just happen to love it. I also love a whole lot of other role-playing games as well. I've had this discussion on the channel numerous times, so I'm not going to go into a lot of depth here. I know a lot of people are unhappy with Wizards of the Coast at the moment, the way they are kind of doing things, and you know what? That is perfectly fine. That is okay. This book, however, is kind of a follow-up to Art and Arcana, the visual history of Dungeons & Dragons. This one, of course, is just focusing specifically on 5th edition. Now, 5th edition has some fantastic art, don't get me wrong. However, in my personal opinion, it's not the best art that has graced Dungeons & Dragons books. But I'm coming from a place of nostalgia here, because I kind of grew up playing 2nd edition and 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. So my love is like the Dragonlance art of Larry Elmore and things like that. That is not to say that the art is bad. It definitely isn't. The art is fantastic. I'm just saying I prefer the older stuff. Again, personal preference. You might disagree with me, and that is perfectly fine. So first of all, let's check out this. We have the back cover art here. And the front cover art is, of course, phenomenal. We have the green dragon. Immediately so kind of evocative. And that's what I love about books like this. Okay, let's dive straight in. Straight off, we have Tiamat. If you're a fan of Dragonlance, you'd probably say Tarkhesis. Same thing, give or take. With the 5 chromatic dragon heads, red, black, white, blue, and green. Okay, we're already getting some beautiful artwork here from the back cover. And then we have the table of contents, the Dragon Rises, Braving the Elements, Gigantic, Seasoned Lich, Many Eyes on Waterdeep, Ascent, A Warm Hearth in Winter, The Big Tent, and Out of This World. So basically, this is following the release of the campaign books and whatnot from the very beginning of 5th edition, which I believe was in, I want to say 2015, through to now. And the reason that this book has come out and that these things are being brought up is, I believe this year is the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. So this is a game that's been out for 50 years now, that so many people love, so many people play, so many people enjoy. And it served as a gateway game into other role-playing games. So you've got to kind of take that as what it is as well, that without Dungeons & Dragons, a lot of people wouldn't have gotten into other things. For example, my personal experience, without Dungeons & Dragons, probably would have never played Shadowrun. And I fucking love Shadowrun so much, although we can argue that the later editions kind of butchered the game a bit, but that's neither here nor there. I wouldn't have gotten into Call of Cthulhu. Pardon me. I wouldn't have gotten into the World of Darkness campaign setting. At the moment, I'm running a Vampire the Masquerade campaign with some friends from Australia, set in Chicago. Only 2 players, but this kind of small coterie. One of them is a Traidor, one of them is a Nosferatu. For those of you that don't know World of Darkness stuff, it's basically Beauty and the Beast, pretty much. One of them is this Romanian poet, and the other one is just a kind of sewer-dwelling scumbag. No offense to Amorth, but there you have it. And my cousin recently introduced a third member as a Malkavian into that mix there. Would never have done anything like that had I not gotten my feet wet with Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm very thankful for this game. I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity in high school to play this game with friends, outside of high school to play this game with a lot of different people. So it's very near and dear to my heart. Take that, what you will. Okay, we have a forward by Tom Morello. Tom Morello, of course, Rage Against the Machine. Just ignore the political statement on the guitar, but it is what it is. Really interesting for a read. Then we have our introduction. We get the old D&D starter set. We have the Dungeon Master screen art. And then some pictures. Here is the game from the celebrity game from The Big Bang Theory. Then we have our prelude. Just looking at these pictures, this is why I love books like this so much. Just looking at these pictures starts to get the imagination kind of flowing, and it literally lets me go back into my office, which I might take you on a short tour on at the end of this video, and just take a book off the shelf and start flicking through it. It could be a source book for a game, it could be a rule book for a game, and just enjoy it for what it is. The amazing scene from The Big Bang Theory where Howard Wolowitz is DMing and he does all the voices. You can see it on YouTube. Check it out if you haven't. Even if you hate The Big Bang Theory, this was a fantastic scene. Old style dungeon maps. This is how I used to draw them. Just so much fun. I used to love doing that back in the day. Dungeon Module B2, The Caves of Chaos by Gary Gygax. And we kind of D&D next. One thing I'm not kind of liking about the latest iteration of Dungeons and Dragons is they're kind of pushing it more towards the online and the internet and things like that. Now, my favorite way of playing Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop role-playing game is literally at a fucking table with the people around you. You've got your dice in your hand and you're throwing them on the table and whatnot. If you are in if you live in South Korea and you live in Seoul, there is a fantastic Dice and Comics cafe that have regular Dungeons and Dragons tables and events and things like that. And it is the perfect place just to meet a group of people, have fun. On, like, I believe Wednesday evenings they have tables. Last semester I had a student ask me in the very first week. She was a student who was from the Philippines, but she's a Korean student. And she was like, I don't have anyone to play Dungeons and Dragons with. And then I pointed her to the Dice and Comics Cafe, and now she's in like 3 different games and absolutely having a blast. So there are places out there where you can still go and sit at tables and enjoy yourself with friends around you and whatnot. But I tend to play online because I play with friends from Australia. And it's not optimal. It's still fun. Don't get me wrong. I love every minute of it. But the preferred way to play these games, they are tabletop role-playing games. Play them on a table. But it is what it is. Fantastic art, of course. This is from the Sundering line of books. It was a 6-book series that kind of brought the Forgotten Realms into 5th edition. Written by very famous Forgotten Realms authors like R.A. Salvatore and whatnot. I had and read every one of these, and they were all fantastic. The entire series, the 6-book series, was really, really good. Now, what I do like about this is you get these kind of lore sections, which is a lot of fun. Then we have basically the move into 5th edition. We had kind of adventures like this that brought us into 5th edition. This was a character sheet that Wizards of the Coast had a competition for someone to design a character sheet. This was the winner. It has a back page as well. I had quite a few of these. I picked them up just because, but never got a chance to run them. And I believe I sold them in the end or gave them away. Now we come to Chapter 1, The Dragon Rises. Okay, first of all, we have this amazing art of a green dragon. Just spectacular. Excuse me while I take a drink. So this was the cover for the starter set. I never actually got the starter set. I'm a person that doesn't really like that kind of a thing. However, I'm kind of pissed that I didn't, because the starter set came with the Lost Mines of Phandelver as a jumping off adventure, and that sounded really, really cool. I was fortunate enough to be part of a small group that started kind of running it before it dissolved. It was an online group, and it kind of dissolved, but it was fun while it lasted. The Dungeon Master was fantastic in that group, and I had a really, really good time. Then we get kind of golden rules. We get some figures here. And then we get the cover for the Player's Handbook, which I believe is a Fire Giants. Some art for different areas. We've got Dwarven, Elven, and Orc, I believe. Elven Archer, some great kind of pictures. Now, this was really cool. So I had this book when as a novel, The Collected Stories of R.A. Salvatore, Legends of Drizzt Do'Urden, possibly one of the most famous Forgotten Realms characters ever created. When they did the audiobook for this, they actually got famous celebrities to read the stories out. So you had like Sean Astin, who was, you're all going to say Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings, but he's forever going to be the main Goonie. Ice-T, Felicia Day. There's even one story read by David Duchovny. It is just one of the greatest audiobooks you will ever listen to. And the stories are all just fantastic. I believe the first story doesn't even have Drizzt in it. It is young Brunel Battlehammer before, set years and years and years before the Crystal Shard. And they are just absolutely phenomenal. It was a really, really top-notch collection. Hoard of the Dragon Queen. This was the first kind of campaign book. What was interesting is Hoard of the Dragon Queen and The Rise of Tiamat was the first big campaign for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that they released, and they released them in 2 books. After that, all of the campaigns were released in 1. Okay, you get the Sword Coast here. This is where most of the 5th edition stuff is pretty much set, which is a far cry from earlier editions where the Dale Lands was like the main part, the Moonshae Isles, Sembia, Cormyr, things like that. I don't have anything against this. I think this is fine because this is what more people know now. When I was growing up with Dungeons and Dragons, it was the world was more open, the maps were more open, the books were more open. You had Al Qadim, which was like this Arabian Nights set in Zakara. You had the Mazteca trilogy, which was set in like an Aztec and an Aztec world, and the traditional fantasy characters were almost like these Spanish conquistadors. So you had a whole lot of different stuff, but Sword Coast is what people know. Sword Coast is what they went with, and that is perfectly fine. Okay, again, beautiful art here. We get the Adventurers League. This is kind of like a worldwide play league thing. Never really understood it, never really got into it, but it still sounded kind of cool. The Monster Manual, you can't have a good Dungeons & Dragons kind of campaign setting without a Monster Manual. Of course, the Monster Manual depicts the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons creature, the Beholder, with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 eye stalks and the main eye, fanged maw. Just perfect. Fantastic cover as well. For those of you that don't know what a Beholder does, each of its eyes has a different ability, like the central eye is anti-magic. Some of them can disintegrate, some of them can charm person, things like that. They are really, really deadly creatures. You have the Myconids, the Fungus Man. You have the classic monsters, the Mind Flayer, Illithid, Beholder. I believe that's a Roper. And a Boule. Hook Horror, Gelatinous Cube. And, of course, the cute little owlbear. Those of you that saw the Dungeons & Dragons film Honor Among Thieves will know that the druid turned into an owlbear, but technically she shouldn't have been able to do that because the owlbear is not an animal, it is an aberration, so to speak. We have some of the novels, some of the beautiful setting art. The cover for the Rise of Tiamat. Again, you will see the 5-headed dragon, red, black, white, blue, and green. Tiamat, of course, being the goddess of evil dragons. We have the Red Wizards of Thay, featured prominently in the Dungeons & Dragons film Honor Among Thieves. A dragon perched on a tower around a maze. And then we have the Dungeon Master's Guide with one of the most iconic Dungeons & Dragons villains on the cover, Acererak the Lich. Or Demi-Lich, depending, but you miss he's the Lich. Okay. We have Modrones here from, I believe, the Plane of Order or the Plane of Law or something along those lines. We have some of the most famous magic items. The Book of Vile Darkness, Keaton's Ointment, I believe. That's an Orb of Dragonkind. The Eye, Hand, and Sword of Vecna. And this would be Talisman of the Spheres. Now, it gives you a little bit of history here. Keaton's Ointment was named after one of Gary Gygax's childhood friends who passed away. I believe it says Tom Keogh. So I thought that was a nice little kind of homage that I didn't know about until I read this book. So there you have it. Then you get this, who is Acererak. And this isn't about like the character itself. This is about the real life history. Like, where did he come from? How was he conceived? That kind of a thing. Okay, we have a Wood Elf. Let's see, what do we have here? Carrion Crawler, Rust Monster, Sturge, Otyug. These things are fucking awesome. One of my favorite monsters of all time. and a Mimic. And a Flumph. Got a Barroom Brawl happening here. Who is Tiamat? Dungeon Master screen art. Then we move into Braving the Elements. So you can see some kind of modeling art. And then we have Princes of the Apocalypse. I remember exactly where I was when I read that this was the next 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I was in Katoomba, and I looked it up on the computer before my wife and I took my father's dog Susie for a walk around the block, and I damn near shit my pants because this was exactly the sort of thing that I was wanting. These, basically, it was the Temple of Elemental Evil revised for 5th edition. And I don't even need to begin to tell you how fucking cool that is. I never had the original Temple of Elemental Evil. I did have the 3rd edition adventure, which was really cool. I also played the video game. If you've never played the Temple of Elemental Evil video game, I believe you can get it on GOG. It is fucking awesome. It is so good. One of my all-time favorites. You get some of the elementals. This is the leader of the cult of the Crushing Wave, so the leader of the water elemental cult. I mean, come on. He's freaking riding a shark. He's got a giant claw and a freaking trident. It's just so good. The player's companion was pretty cool. Oh, there we have Dragon Plus. Dragon Magazine. Oh, how I missed you. That was my fucking jam every month. My parents would have Dragon Magazine set aside for me at the Middle News Agency in Katoomba Street. And when we would go shopping, I would go up there and ask them, is it in yet? And it was, oh, I love Dragon Magazine so very, very much. I had an absolute ton of them. A friend of mine told me that his nephew had just started getting into Dungeons and Dragons. And I believe before I left for South Korea, I said he can have all of my old Dragon magazines. I don't regret it. It's just passing on the legacy to a new generation of tabletop role-playing gamers, but that kid scored out because I had at least over 100 or maybe 150 of these magazines. Even to the point where I would go to secondhand bookstores and scour for older issues, usually down in Penrith. Oh, now we have Out of the Abyss with Demogorgon on the cover. This is a really cool campaign, by the way. We have Brunor Battlehammer sitting on the throne of Gauntlgrim. We have, I believe that's Jubilex, and that's Zugdmoy, the Demon Queen of Fungus, and he is the demon of oozes and whatnot. We have Demogorgon. Let's see, we have Baphomet, the demon of Minotaurs, Orcus, the demon of undead, Jubilex, and Grazit, right there. And just a fun little kind of, and Zugdmoy, of course. Then we have kind of books that came out at this time. I've read Vengeance of the Drow. I haven't read Spellstorm, but I do have it. I've read Ashes of the Tyrant, and I have read Archmage. These are books that kind of tied into the Out of the Abyss campaign. Pool of Radiance. One of the greatest RPGs ever made for the computer. I love all of those old SSR. Pool of Radiance, Hillsfar, Curse of the Azure Bonds, Secret of the Silver Blades, Champions of Krynn, Death Knights of Krynn, Dark Queen of Krynn, and then you had like the Savage Frontier ones as well. I absolutely loved those games so much. Who's Demogorgon? Those of you who watch Stranger Things, you'll recognize the name Demogorgon. It's there. Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. I do have this, but this has now been made a little bit obsolete. Pardon my sniffling. At least some of the character choices in it. It's a pretty good book. It gives you a lot of history, a lot of flavor. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna fault it for being what it is. Okay. Then we come to Gigantic. Of course, we have Curse of Strahd. This was bringing Ravenloft into 5th edition. Excuse me while I blow my nose for 1 second. I'm just going to try and do it with a jaunty tune. There we go. Now, what I liked about Curse of Strahd is it never plays the same way twice. You can... there is basically a lot of replay value with this one, simply because the Tarokka deck, which is the kind of fortune-telling deck, can change up where certain clues are and where certain things are in the game itself. It is one of the best laid out campaigns like ever created, and well worth your time and effort to run it for a party or to play it if you're that way inclined. This, of course, is the legendary vampire Strahd von Zarovich. Beautiful art. You can actually buy a Tarokka deck. They also give you the means to just use a regular deck of playing cards if you don't want to go in that direction. Very menacing figures there. Then we have Storm King's Thunder. Now, Giants are one of my all-time favorite Dungeons & Dragons monsters. I love the versatility of them. I love the fact that you have so many different types. You've got your hill giants, your storm giants, your cloud giants, your fire giants. You know, there's a butt ton of them and a whole lot of different offshoots from them. However, I have never actually utilized them in a game of Dungeons & Dragons before. And the reason being, I just didn't know how. They are not one-dimensional monsters by any stretch of the imagination. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of get tactics and things. I did run Rise of the Rune Lords for first edition Pathfinder. And that had a lot of giant-related stuff in it. But Storm King's Thunder really kind of opened my eyes on how to run giants in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, along with the Bigby book, which will appear a bit later on. Love the cover art here. This was a really cool campaign as well. Really, really well done. A homage to the original Player's Handbook. Giant Craft. This was a book that I never managed to get my hands on. I had Drow of the Underdark. I had the Dragon one, the Cult of Dragons, things like that. Never had a chance to get my hands on Giant Craft. Still a little bit pissy about that, actually. What Storm King's Thunder did was it had a flow chart, so you could start here, and then whatever the players decided, the Dungeon Master could just go down the flow chart. Made it really simple, really easy to run and to follow. Assault of the Giants. This is a board game. Looked kind of cool, but not solo, so I never even bothered looking into it. Again, Tyrants of the Underdark. Looked cool. Not solo, so I didn't bother kind of getting into it. Neverwinter, I never played the online game, but always wanted to, just don't have the time. I do have this, Ed Greenwood's Death Masks. Haven't read it yet. I read Hero. I've read The Devil You Know. And, of course, I have read Maestro. Volo's Guide to Monsters. This was a really cool one. I believe Volothamp Gidarm is this guy's name. He had a whole lot of second edition kind of stuff, Volo's Guides to. He basically goes around the realms and just kind of writes about stuff. You got a lot of new character races in this book. You got the Furbolgs, you got the Tabaxi, Asimir, Lizardman, Kenku, and Tritons. Kenku I absolutely love as a playable race. Always wanted to try one. Tritons are pretty cool as well, if you're that way inclined. Has Acererak. We're on the Season of the Lich here. Starting with Tales from the Yawning Portal. Tales from the Yawning Portal was really, really cool. A whole lot of old Dungeons & Dragons kind of scenarios revamped for 5th edition. So you had kind of like the Doom Vault one, the Thay one, the Sunless Citadel, which a very good friend of mine recently gave to me when I purchased a book from him, which I'll show you a bit later. Things like that. Gibbering Mouther. This is from Vault of Horror. All really beautiful art. Then we get the Tomb of Annihilation with Acererak. This is set in Chult. And it brings back Dragonbait from the Find a Stone trilogy, which I've read and reviewed on the channel, and Arda Simba from the Harper's novel Ring of Winter, which I haven't read and reviewed, but trust me, I will when I can get around to it. This has like dinosaurs and things. I really, really love this. There's Chult. I really love this campaign. Turtles, so you could actually play as a turtle person now. Tomb of Annihilation, the board game. Never got it. I do like the Dungeons & Dragons board games. I believe there was Wrath of Ashardalon. There's a Ravenloft one, and there was a Drizzt Do'Urden one. Never got the Tomb of Annihilation one, but I do have the video game, and it's pretty cool. Unearthed Arcana, this is the playtesting that Wizards of the Coast does with different builds and characters and races and classes and whatnot. So here you have like a new oath for the Paladin, the Oath of Treachery. Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Xanathar being the most famous beholder in Waterdeep. He lives in Skullport and runs a crime syndicate. It's kind of cool. Some fantastic art there. And then you get some kind of comic books. If you can hear that scratching, it's just one of my cats using the bathroom. And then we go to Many Eyes on Waterdeep. Now we have Into the Borderlands and The Keep on the Borderlands. These were the very first two Dungeons & Dragons kind of adventures. And these were actually converted to 5th edition with this beautiful hardcover book, which gives you some kind of history of everything, and then it gives you the adventures themselves, the old maps. This is the book I had purchased, get the original publication, from my friend who also gave me the Sunless Citadel. This is just historic. Absolutely historic Dungeons and Dragons at its very, very finest. So, yep, just wanted to show you that quickly. Okay, so let's move on to Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Mordenkainen being one of the most famous wizards in Dungeons and Dragons lore. A lot of the spells that you will come across if you play a wizard or a sorcerer have the moniker of Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, or Mordenkainen's this, Mordenkainen's that. So look at the art here, just absolutely superb. Who is Mordenkainen? Some more fantastic arts. Endless Quest. These are like choose your own adventures. Then we get Waterdeep Dragon's Heist. Now, I have to be honest with you, not my favorite cover for 5th edition campaigns. However, it does showcase each of the 4 villains. Now, I say there are 4 villains in this. The Dungeon Master picks one of the 4 and then runs the game that way. So the villains could be like Jarlaxle, could be Xanathar, could be this family, or it could be this Manshoon clone here. So that's kind of cool. You get some good kind of Waterdeep art. And then we have Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Holy shit, is this fucking awesome. Dungeon of the Mad Mage is basically Undermountain, which was a huge campaign setting in 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. But this has, I believe there's like 20 levels of this dungeon. It's just one massive, mad, psychotic dungeon crawl. And you can give your players quests here and there, things they have to fulfill. But ultimately, this is one of the greatest dungeon crawls ever written. So much fun, so wild. Really, really love it. We have some great art, of course. Then we have different translations, different languages. Then we come to this, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. This is bringing Magic the Gathering basically into 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Ravnica, of course, being the Magic the Gathering set that introduced the multicolored cards. Well, it didn't introduce multicolored cards. Multicolored cards were basically the bread and butter of Ravnica. This is a really good book. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but because Ravnica was when I stopped playing Magic the Gathering. When Ravnica came out was when I kind of tapered off and didn't bother continuing. I pretty much played through Mirrodin, Onslaught through Mirrodin, and then kind of tapered off. Ravnica came out, I'm like, I don't think I can get into this, but I really enjoyed this this book, and the art is just, as usual, absolutely phenomenal. Art and Arcana, I spoke about. I've already reviewed this on the channel. Okay, then we go to Ascent. There we have, I believe that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shatner, and Will Wheaton with Leonard playing Dungeons & Dragons. Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Again, this is a reprinting of older Dungeons & Dragons adventures from way back in 1st edition. Just the art here, I mean, that is just ominous. That is almost Cthulhu-esque, if you ask me. We have the Sahuagin here. And then there's the original Ghost of Saltmarsh. Matthew Lillard, the actor, played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies. Huge Dungeons & Dragons fan, and kind of makes these sets to go along with it, where you get like handouts and things like that are all kind of aged and whatnot. Really, really cool stuff. I love it when you learn about celebrities that actually play. Okay, here we have the different, aside from the Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, one of my all-time favorites. Greyhawk, never really got into it all that much. Ravenloft, all-time favorite. Spelljammer, probably my least favorite setting. Dark Sun, I freaking love, but due to the nature of what Dark Sun is, it'll probably never be reprinted. And Planescape, that is the latest 5th edition campaign setting that they've just released, and I believe it's a 3-book set. I actually don't have it yet. It was released last year, but I haven't had a chance to purchase it. But Planescape is really cool, and one of my best campaigns was a Planescape campaign where the characters had to journey through different realms to find the ashes of a demon prince that had been scattered in different urns. So one of them was in Faerun, one of them was on Krynn, one of them was in the realm was the brain of the Mind Flayer god. So they were basically walking through this brain and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Icewind Dale, companion game to Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Arm. I believe Baldur's Gate 3, which I really want to play, but my computer just will not run anything. Icewind Dale was a lot of fun. Icewind Dale 2, really cool as well. Acquisitions Incorporated, my least favorite 5th edition source book, but there's some good stuff in here. Basically, starting a adventuring business kind of a thing. Boundless, Rick and Morty D&D, the new starter set, little gelatinous cube toy, little Strahd Funzo. Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus. This sends your players from Baldur's Gate straight to hell. It wasn't the best received 5th edition campaign, but there is some stuff in there that's really cool, such as being able to meet Joe Manganiello's character from Critical Role. Big spoiler alert coming up. If you don't want to hear this, then kind of jump ahead a bit. But in Critical Role, his character cut off his hand and attached the hand of Vecna to it and then teleported away, kind of leaving the party in disbelief. And then you can meet him with trying to control the hand of Vecna in Avernus. I thought that was kind of really, really cool. The reprint of Tyranny of Dragons. Eberron, Rising from the Last War. Eberron was not a setting that I got into. It came out at a time where I believe it was a competition to design a new campaign setting, and Eberron was the one that won it. But at that point in my kind of role-playing Dungeons & Dragons kind of era, I was moving on to other games, so I never really got into Eberron. And there was kind of cyberpunk machine stuff happening, and I'm like, that kind of sounds lame. But Eberron, Rising from the Last War, I've read this source book, and Eberron is fucking awesome. There are a ton of novels out there that you can get on via ebook or Audible. They are really, really good. This is a fantastic setting. Very, very underrated in my personal opinion now. I was one of the people that underrated it, so I understand where you're coming from. But I absolutely love, and they bring the concept of the Warforged, which are like you can actually play as like a freaking golem. So cool. And there's the Eberron campaign setting. And we have some more kind of animated stuff. Then we get the characters from the Dungeons and Dragons animated series, which please go and watch it. It is so much fun. I absolutely loved it. I have all the episodes. We have Dungeon Master, Eric the Cavalier, Diana the Acrobat, Bobby the Barbarian with Uni, Sheila the Rogue, Hank the Ranger, and I forget what Presto's actual name is, and then Venger in the middle. You can see they've been used in commercials and whatnot. This is from the animated show. Those of you that haven't seen the animated show, a group of kids are at a fun park. They go on a Dungeons and Dragons ride, and they are transported into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeon Master gives each of them a signature weapon. The Cavalier gets a shield, the Acrobat gets a staff, the Barbarian gets a club, the Rogue or the Thief gets Cloak of Invisibility, the Ranger gets a bow and arrow, a bow, that shoots arrows, and the Wizard gets a hat that he can kind of cast spells through. And Dungeon Master is trying to guide them back home. They are being pursued by Venger. We also see Tiamat come up quite a bit. So yeah, really cool. And they did appear in the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie very briefly. And we get our dice. And we move on to Chapter 7, A Warm Hearth in Winter. So, you might have noticed a little change. I just had to take some of the other videos off the phone before I can continue because I was running out of room. A Warm Hearth in Winter. Here we have Critical Role. A lot of people have talked about Matt Mercer, the Dungeon Master, and how when they have watched Critical Role and then they go and play Dungeons & Dragons for the first time, it's not the same experience. They call it the Mercer effect. You've got to understand, if you're watching Critical Role, these are all voice actors. So, your experience is going to be different. Your Dungeon Master is going to be different. It's not the same all the time. So, yeah, something to think about, I guess. But Critical Role released Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Wildemount being the homebrew campaign setting that Critical Role kind of used in their YouTube casts. It's actually really good. Some of the classes are a little overpowered. Like the Temporal Knight is like a fighter that can kind of move through time and stuff, but still really cool. So who gives a shit, right? So long as it's cool, that's all you need. Okay, we get some star power here. Mythic Odysseys of Theros. This is the second book that brings a Magic the Gathering setting into 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. This one, of course, is kind of modeled loosely off Greek mythology. Now, I initially thought I wasn't going to like this. I don't know, there's something about bringing almost like history into Dungeons and Dragons. Now, okay, you're going to kind of poo-poo me a bit on this one. Because, medieval fantasy literature and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But then you're bringing other kind of historical elements, in this case, ancient Greece. Mazteca introduced Aztecs and Incas and things like that. Moonshae in the Forgotten Realms is like Celtic Britain. I don't have anything against people introducing this kind of stuff into their campaigns. I really don't. It's your game. You do what you want. But back in the day, I had a 2nd edition source book that was primarily introducing Celtic history into Dungeons and Dragons, and it was one of the worst source books I've ever read. that's just me. I've got nothing against Celtic history. I love Celtic history, but it was kind of turning this fantasy world into a more historically accurate world, which at the time, as a kid in high school, I didn't really see the point of. I can see now how it's beneficial. Excuse me for one moment. Just going to blow my nose. At least it's not a fart this time. So there you go. At least it's not a fart. The only reason I'm doing that, by the way, for those of you that are interested in the man behind the camera, is I had to pause it because I had a fucking sneezing fit. But there you go. Whatever. It is what it is. These videos are what they are. I didn't think I'd like Mythic Odysseys of Theros. This is fucking great. This is one of the best source books. The dynamic between the humans and the gods is so well thought out in this that it's something I believe needs to be kind of brought into other campaign settings. Really, really well done. However, not my most favorite part of this. My most favorite part of this is the new races. You can play as a satyr, a centaur. I mean, look at that. You can play as a minotaur. They did introduce, I believe, minotaurs in Ravnica, but here is like the classic traditional minotaur. But you can play as the Leonin. These are like humanoid lions. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up is just to piss off one person out there who I know is watching this and who I know I played Magic the Gathering against back when Mirrodin was starting out and they introduced the Leonin as cat people. They were primarily white. In the color scheme, in Magic the Gathering, you have white, green, blue, black, and red. And the Leonine were white, and I had a tribal cat deck, which was all about smashing face and gaining life. And you know who you are, Ian. Fucking hated that deck. He hated my cat deck, and he hated my blue tribal wizard deck. And holy shit, did I have fun. So being able to introduce the Leonine as a playable race now, fuck yes, I am all for it. Relentless, new Salvatore novel. Then we move on to Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. An unexpected campaign setting, in my personal opinion. Didn't really think they would go here. Icewind Dale, of course, being the major setting for most of R.A. Salvatore's early Forgotten Realms novels, The Crystal Shard, Streams of Silver, not so much The Halfling's Gem. This was unexpected and really enjoyable. We have Auril, the Frost Maiden, I believe she's a demigod, not necessarily a full god. Oh yeah, that's some good go-go juice. Really cool campaign. I don't think I will run this, as I only have two characters and it works better with two players. Sorry, it works better with more because there are secrets and things like that you've got to kind of contend with. An owl polar bear, pretty cool. Icewind Dales. Shelf of Many Things. Heroes Feast. That's a Dungeons & Dragons cookbook, by the way. Curse of Strahd revamped. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This book, I love books like this that are just new rules, new classes, new options, new everything. I believe this has one of the best, or in my opinion, the most fun subclasses, and it's to do with, it's either a ranger or a druid. I cannot remember, and I apologize for not being able to remember, but they deal with swarms. So you can be surrounded by a swarm of bees or a swarm of locusts or something, and you can kind of control them. That is so fucking cool. It's not funny. I absolutely adore that. I think that is great. Just a lot of fun. And you know what? A lot of people they min-max when they play role-playing games, so they want to get the maximum amount of their character to do the best. But you've got to think in terms of just role-playing, just flat-out role-playing. How do you want to have fun in the game? Do you want to be that person that is like, if I put my point here, then this gives me a +5 bonus, which means the minimum I can roll is this, and this, and this, and this? Or do you want to make a character that is flawed, that is possibly not the best? I don't know. It's your playstyle. I can remember when I was at university and my housemates at the time were running the Night Below campaign, the second edition Night Below campaign, which I had actually purchased it, and I had started running it for a group in high school. Didn't go very well, but hey, we were young and we were learning. My housemate wanted to run it for their friends, which I said, sure, here's everything you need. And at that time, if you were a wizard, if you're a specialist wizard, I should say, so there's 8 schools of magic, and if you specialized in one, then you couldn't cast spells from the direct opposite. And the player, she decided to specialize in the school of magic where you couldn't cast evocation spells. So that means no fireballs or anything like that. Severely weakening her as a wizard, but at the same time, the roleplay value is through the roof. That's the shit that I love. I thought that was an awesome choice. Really, really cool. So, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything gives you a lot more options. And we get an idea of who Tasha is. I'm not going to go into that. Okay, the big tent. We have another Dungeon Master screen here. And we get Candlekeep Mysteries. Candlekeep, of course, being, if you've ever played Baldur's Gate, that is where you are raised at the beginning of the game. It's a giant library. Candlekeep Mysteries is just a book of adventures, and each of these adventures revolves around a book. You can go into the book, you can hunt down the book, you can, do whatever. But I thought Candlekeep Mysteries was excellent, especially because all of them can be ran as one-shots, or you can very easily tie any of these into a pre-existing campaign. So yeah, I thought Candlekeep Mysteries was cool. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. I'm not even going to talk about this because it's just so fucking awesome. We have Strahd, we have Rudolph Van Richten, the famous vampire hunter. Van Richten, there was a series of books released for 2nd edition. Van Richten's Guide to Vampires, Ghosts, Van Richten's Guide to the Lich, Van Richten's Guide to Werebeasts. I believe this was the only one that I did own. Ancient Dead, and a couple of others I can't quite read right now because my eyes are fucked. But Van Richten is a stable in Ravenloft mythology. Almost, not quite, but almost as important as Strahd von Zarovich. In Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, you got updates on a few of the realms, not all of them. You didn't get all of the Ravenloft realms from 2nd edition, but you did get a lot of them. You also got some new Dark Lords, and the characters from the Ravenloft novels, which I highly recommend. I've read and reviewed. I believe I read Istrad Memoirs of a Vampire, but I could be wrong. I read one Ravenloft book and reviewed it on the channel. Anyway, the Ravenloft books are great, and some of the characters, like Larissa Snowmain from Dance of the Dead, you actually get more information about where they are now and what they are doing. So it kind of ties 2nd and 5th edition all together. Powerful Magic. This is the Magic the Gathering set that they released, set in the Forgotten Realms. It was pretty good. I thought there were some interesting possibilities. You can see you have like Ashurarak here, Purple Worm, Eyes of the Beholder. I mean, target creature gets -11 at the end of turn. I mean, come on. That's fucking stupid, but fun and flavorful, so, you know, can't complain. The new R.A. Salvatore series, Starlight Enclave, introduces kind of a new offshoot of Drow. I haven't read these books yet, although I do have the trilogy, which I will read and review as soon as I can. Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I love the art in this. I love the concept. This traveling carnival that goes like through the Feywild and whatnot. Reminds me a lot of the Dark Moon Fair from World of Warcraft. Don't think I would ever run this one, to be perfectly honest with you. It just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that I would enjoy running. However, it does introduce characters from the old Dungeons and Dragons, like coloring in books and stuff. Warduke, Kelek, I think, Ringelrune, and Strongheart the Paladin. That was cool. I really like that. You actually get stats for the evil team and the good team from the early Dungeons & Dragons stuff. And I had like the early Dungeons & Dragons coloring in books and things like that. You can see Ringelrune on the cover of the Player's Handbook there. The figures you could buy. I would have fucking loved this as a kid. That's just awesome. Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. This got me excited when it was announced, just because Fizban is part of Dragonlance mythology. Fizban is the human incarnation of the god Paladine. And then we find out through Treasury of Dragons that the god Paladine and the god of good dragons, Bahamut, are one and the same. So there you go. Council of Worms. This was a setting that I never got into, but it was really interesting to me. I'd read about it in Dragon quite a lot. And it's basically the players play as dragons, which I don't know how that would work, but this is something I might have to look into getting this from DriveThruRPG if they have it and exploring it a bit further, because I really wanted to get into this, but never kind of had the gumption to do it. There is Fizban. Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. If you ever wanted Harry Potter, Dungeons & Dragons, this is it. However, you can play as an owl person. Fucking awesome. This is actually not a bad campaign setting to introduce, as I've said in the past, to introduce young kids into Dungeons & Dragons. Any kid that's read Harry Potter or seen the movies even, any kid that's starting out school, this is a really good gateway campaign. So I wholeheartedly celebrate what they were trying to do with this campaign setting. I believe Strixhaven as well is another Magic the Gathering set, but don't quote me on that because I'm not too sure. I think it is though. Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy. I believe this is like a drive-through RPG thing that you can purchase. Minsk and Boo being the ranger and the space hamster from the original Baldur's Gate game. And then we move to Out of This World. This is Spelljammer. Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse. This is a pretty good book. I like that it's kind of bringing this multiversal stuff into it. You get a whole lot of different kind of monsters, especially the abyssal creature from the cover of Manual of the Planes there. Critical Role's big campaign, Call of the Netherdeep. This is a really awesome campaign, by the way. One that I would highly recommend running. I do have a problem with it, however, but it's got nothing to do with Critical Role and it's got nothing to do with the campaign itself. It's just when I got my copy, 2 pages were stuck together, and when I tried very carefully to unstick them, they tore. And that pissed me off. I'm not going to purchase it again, just because I've already got a copy, but it's got that blemish now that has just ruined the whole thing for me. But it's an awesome, awesome campaign. Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. I like what they tried to do with this one, in as much as they are bringing real-world cultures into 5th edition through a series of adventures. So the Radiant Citadel is kind of this base of operations, and from there you can go across the multiverse, and you can go to different planes that are reflections of real-world cultures and things like that. I like what they're trying to do. They're trying to get some inclusivity into things. You might not enjoy that. You might go, oh, stop being so fucking woke and whatnot. But if you're creating a book or you're creating content that brings more people into the game because more people feel like they are being represented or they are able to be themselves at the tabletop, then for fuck's sake, who cares? Just let it happen. It's fantastic. Get over it. Fuck all y'all. Then we have Spelljammer, probably my least favourite campaign setting. I didn't mind the actual 5th edition Spelljammer stuff. Some of it's pretty good read. I know it got a lot of criticism for not containing certain rules. And it copped a lot of shit for the race of, I think they're called the Hosin, which are like the monkey people. But for fuck's sake, people, come on. It's a fucking game. The Hosin are a fantastic race. If you want to play as a fucking little monkey man, knock yourself out. Who fucking gives a shit? Like, honestly, you don't have to include everything that Wizards of the Coast put in the book into your game. You're the dungeon master. The players are the players. You're free to pick and choose what you want to use and what you don't want to use. And if you don't want to use any of it, don't. If you want to use some of it, use some of it. If you want to use all of it, use all of it. It doesn't fucking matter. But people put up so much fucking stink about this shit. It was just fucking ridiculous. And that's my opinion. You know what? You might have a different opinion on the situation, and that is perfectly fine. My opinion is people need to stop being whiny little fucking bitches and just realize it's a game and you don't have to use the stuff. How many times have you fucking played Monopoly and not used every single little pissy fucking rule because it's bullshit and it bogs the game down? Jesus Christ, get off your fucking high horses. Sorry about that. Okay, we have some more Planescapes. Spelljammer stuff. Spelljammer had some great art though. You got to admit, the art is just fucking cool. New Beginnings. There's Venger. The new starter sets. Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Not even going to talk about this one because you all know, if you've watched the channel, I love Dragonlance. I love Soth. This was a fantastic campaign. The one thing I didn't like, although the only reason I didn't like it is because I've got no chance to do this. But there was a tie-in board game that came along with this campaign setting, and when it got to a certain point in the game, you could put the role-playing aspect away and pull out the board game, and then the players could play the board game. And then when that was done, that would determine how the role-playing game. Now, I would have loved to fucking try that. The only reason I'm pissy about it is because I don't have the fucking opportunity to do that. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I think it's great. Dragons of Deceit, read and reviewed on the channel. I do have the second book in the series, Dragons of Fate, which I want to read and review this year, but I would have to go back and read Dragons of Deceit again before jumping straight into Dragons of Fate. So that's kind of keeping me back a little bit. We have the Larry Elmore art from Dragons of Autumn Twilight. We have Tanis Half-Elven, Gold Moon, and Sturm Brightblade there. I love Larry Elmore's art. Always have, always will. That is just a staple of Dungeons & Dragons for me. And then a multiverse of possibilities. We have the re-release of Tyranny of Dragons, putting the two books, Horde of the Dragon Queen and The Rise of Tiamat, together as one. Keys from the Golden Vault. This is a book of heist adventures. Really cool. But the one that I love the most is the one that ties in with Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is right here. I love this movie. Okay, I teach cinema studies at university. Now, as a film, it's not good. As a stupid, fun adventure film, it's good. As a Dungeons & Dragons film for fans, it's fucking awesome. So you've got to take it as it is. I'm a fan of Dungeons & Dragons. I saw this at the cinema. I absolutely freaking loved it. I thought it was fun. I thought it had everything that you want a Dungeons & Dragons movie to have. Although, this might lower my kind of opinion, but I really liked the Dungeons & Dragons movies that they released back in the day. I thought they were fun as well. So even the one with Jeremy Irons, where he's like, yeah. You can control dragons. And then the guy had the weird blue shit coming out of his ears. I thought that was a fucking good movie. I had fun with it. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is. Great film. Go and watch it. Bigby's Glory of the Giants. Really cool book. We get a little bit about who is Bigby, Mordenkainen's apprentice. This is Planescape. This is the one I don't have yet. But when I do, I will definitely be reviewing it. And then 50 years on, where do we go from here? Okay. Lore and Legends, a visual celebration of 5th edition. I hope that, first of all, you enjoyed the art. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really have said quite a bit in this one, so you can see my kind of fanboy, posturing here, but that is perfectly fine, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you that I'm not just a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, but I'm a fan of tabletop role-playing games. So I will be with you momentarily. So as you can see, here is my collection of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons books, everything except the Planescape stuff. They are not in any order. I have yet to kind of put everything the way I want it. But these aren't the only role-playing games I have, as you know, if you've watched my videos. But let's go in and take a bit of a closer look. Here is Shadowrun, as I said before, I'm a huge fan. We have Shadow Dark up there, the latest kind of edition. We have Star Wars, the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars stuff. West End Games, Star Wars, Adventure Conqueror King. We have some Call of Cthulhu stuff, RuneQuest. What's this? This is Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, 7th Sea. That is Hellboy, The Walking Dead. Come down here, we've got Traveller, Adventure Conqueror King, Blade Runner, Knights Black Agents, Judge Dredd, Righteous Blood, Ruthless Blades, which is a kind of Wuxia role-playing game. Dune, Star Trek, Warhammer, Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu, Transformers, Cyberpunk. This is Ian Van Gammet's starter set. I have yet to send to him. I haven't forgotten you, buddy. Don't worry. Then we come to my Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of, Godlike. Maelstrom here, which was recommended to me by a fan of the channel. More Call of Cthulhu stuff. Shadows of the Demon Lord, Dark Sun, and Cult. Then we have my World of Darkness shelf down here, which is Vampire the Masquerade, Deviant, Changeling, Hunter, Werewolf, Mummy, Cult, more Call of Cthulhu, some solo Star Trek stuff. What do we have here? Call of Cthulhu stuff, The One Ring. So that's like Lord of the Rings role-playing. Marvel Multiverse, G.I. Joe, Dragonlance, Grim Hollow, Talisman, Adventure of Conqueror King, Zorro, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Alien, and Dragon Warriors. So you can see I am a fan of Dungeons & Dragons. I am a fan of 5th edition. However, that is not the only role-playing game that I love. I just love learning these rules. I love getting into these systems. I think it's a lot of fun, at least for me. I mean, who doesn't want to play as a freaking Transformer? I mean, come on. Who doesn't think that's awesome? Who doesn't want to play as a freaking Marvel superhero? Or who doesn't want to be part of G.I. Joe? Come on, you 80s freaks. You know what I'm talking about. So, there you have it. That's me. That's my collection. That's a review of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons art book. I'm not going to say too much more. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Plaguelands Media have a ton of stuff coming up. So, stay tuned. More videos coming. However, I am going back to work tomorrow, actually. So the videos will possibly slow down a little bit. I will try to get them out every Sunday as per usual. But most importantly, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And get into some fucking tabletop role-playing games, people.